falls on the bed and then he's up at 6.
But you're doing an American TV series, aren't you?
Well, there's a new kind of drama/comedy called Eli Stone that Johnny Lee Miller is in. I think it's going to make him a star in America. But yes, so they've asked me to. I'm in the first. I'm a vision in the first.
You're
in the
always
first. I'm
a vision, John.
I'm a vision. And so apparently. What was that? Who was on the night you had Will Young on, and everybody said
Little Britain.
Oh, David Williams.
Yeah, and the switchboard never stopped for 2 days.
Well, I hope you're not doing a David Williams on me, leering.
Oh, Ziff, no. Slightly calf-eyed.
But yeah, so I mean, they're going to use my music, apparently, for the whole series. They want to name each episode after a track of mine. So.
But you've actually met before, haven't you? I mean, you did a part of a documentary that you're doing.
George was kind enough to consent to be interviewed by me. I did this documentary last year, which we talked about manic depression,
yes.
and the BBC were very pleased with it. And
but it had a huge response.
It did have a huge response, and it was a very pleasing that it should, because mental health is an incredibly important issue, and of course it's, to persuade the BBC to do a programme that had the word depression in the title was something, because they just think, oh God, what a turn-off. But actually, people watch. There isn't anybody watching here in the audience or anybody watching at home who doesn't know somebody for whom mental stability, mood stability is an issue. And it has been for me for most of my life, and I'm not embarrassed or ashamed about it any more than I am the fact that I occasionally get asthma. You know, it's a part of my body that doesn't always work absolutely at its best.
Yes.
And it's this terrible wall of silence about it. We are so embarrassed and shocked by it. And even if you were to say it is the right thing to do, to embrace and welcome and try and understand what it is not to be happy, not because of all the reasons there are to be unhappy, to do with, mortgages and all the other problems people have, but simply because your body is making you unhappy, like a kind of internal weather. Even if that wasn't the right thing to do, the money we are wasting, I mean, it's incalculable how many days off people take because there is something wrong in their head. They will never say it. They will, well, sometimes if they're brave, they'll say it. Usually they'll say it's a back problem or it's flu. So we're losing billions, and we're losing, labour capital, if you want to call it.
Do you think it changed anything? I mean, one thing you did happen was this very week, in fact, you got the Mind Award, didn't you?
Yes, they made me, very kindly, made me Mind Champion, which is a great honour.
Yeah.
I think because trying to address this issue of stigma is so important to them, they're the biggest mental health charity in the country, and they see it all the time. Whether it changes anything, I don't know. I think all kinds of things have changed in Britain in the last 20 years. You and I are both gay. We would have found that quite difficult to say 20 years ago.
Yes,
we find it perfectly simple to say now, and not indeed make a huge issue of.
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Well, I think it's been a little simpler for you than for me.
Well, no, it was harder for you.
I don't think it's any hard. I think it's much easier to come out. I think it should be. Life shouldn't have become more difficult for me with the media after I came out, but that was definitely the case. But I don't know if I was to look at a young performer who was in my position, I don't know. I wouldn't. I don't know whether I would be able to say, hand on my heart, that they were doing the cleverest thing to come out, because my experience of it has been so vile. I mean, being followed around in the middle of the night and having complete strangers that you have absolutely never seen their face, let alone the rest of them, right? To have to deal with people's homophobia. I think it's terrible that my experience is turned into something that other people could actually. I hate the fact that young gay people can see that and think, well, how successful do you have to be before it stops mattering?
You have been unlucky, and I wouldn't underestimate that, and I wouldn't say that...
Except to say, though, I mean, if you are this famous man, you know that you're going to be recognised in it. Well, then why do you put yourself at risk?
But not at 2:30 in the morning, I'm sorry.
Well, any time. George, any time. No, the people who are out to get you in your by your they never sleep. I mean, there's money involved.
What do you suggest, that I don't live my life?
Well,
that's where I wanted to be at that point.
Well, you have to be as careful as any famous person is.
Yeah, but why? Why?
Why? Because it ends up in the newspapers,
Yeah, I know,
and you end up being unhappy.
But no,
That's
no,
why.
true. I promise you, it being in the paper did not make me unhappy. What's made me very unhappy this year is what happens as a result of some of those things.
30 all.
But being in the paper, believe me...
Sorry,
But being in the paper, I promise you, that's not the bad bit. That's not the bad bit. And believe me, I think that the sex that I have is worth being in the paper for. Do you know what I mean?
You're a suicide, and I don't wish to undermine it, but in the end, you have to understand that our lives, yours and mine, yours perhaps more than mine, but I don't think that's necessarily true. They are picnics. And every picnic is occasionally afflicted by wasps. And I'm not being trivial here, although it sounds like a joke. It is simply the point that sometimes you want to leave the picnic and you just think it's not worth having a picnic because there's dog turds on the grass and there are wasps and it's ruining the picnic. But at other times you recognise this really is a picnic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes the wasps don't get you, and you don't mind.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that...
You know, what I think is much more important is, for me, is that actually I don't think that young gay people should be exposed to the language that gets used legally about people like you and me. You know, and I think that should change. I really do. Other than that, you know, it really doesn't make any difference to my life. You know?
Well, that's about it.
I think we've covered most.
I think we've covered most
aspects.
things now. We haven't done AIDS and HIV, which you're doing, of course.
That's what I was doing with George. George very kindly did an
might
interview
talk
with me
about
and
that.
was characteristically trenchant in his views.
And Joan will be here in a minute, so we'll all have to shut up.
Well, Stephen, congratulations on Kingdom and all the rest. And I won't bother now listing the other projects you're involved with. It would take like all day. But it's a lot, and I'm likely to sort of stand back a bit, smell the roses, do you think?
June 2008, I have a day off.
Good.
So I'm very excited.
Stephen Fry, thank you very much.
Thank you.